What's doing, everybody? Today is Tuesday, July 16th. Days after an assassination attempt on his life, Donald Trump is in Milwaukee at the RNC to receive the official nomination from the Republican Party. He also announces his running mate as J.D. Vance. And for Trump, his court case with the documents has officially been thrown out. Here with reaction today, I've got Sean Parnell, Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill, Mayor Jondavid Longo, Congressman Tim Burchett, and Clay Clark. I got a big one for you. It's coming up now. I'm Alec Lace. This is the Alec Lace Show.
The American family is under attack. Parents are the underdog of this nation. Your children are being indoctrinated. That's right. Your children. They do not belong to the state. They do not belong to the school system. They belong to you, the parents, as a blessing from God our Father. So let's preserve, protect, and fight for the American family together. You're listening to the Alec Lace Show. The future is family.
All right, welcome everybody to the Alec Lace Show. I'm happy and honored as always to be here with you guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching the broadcast live here on Rumble, please get down there, hit the share button, follow the podcast right here on Rumble, and hit the like button if you're enjoying the action here. I've done my best. Now, listen, it feels like it's been a month since I talked to you guys. I can't believe how much has happened in our world since the last time I was going live here on Rumble with you guys. I had Tulsi Gabbard on the podcast along with Governor Tate Reeves, which seems like weeks ago now, but it was just on Thursday, and so much has changed, not only just in the political landscape, but in our country and in the world. I mean, it was an unbelievable weekend. I haven't been this emotionally sucked into an event since 9/11 as I was this weekend, and I followed everything on Twitter. If you weren't on Twitter, you really missed out because that's where all of the latest news was coming. I mean, it came in real time. I can only imagine if we would have had something like Twitter and these cell phones during a 9/11 because the images and stuff we would have had from inside the towers and stuff. I mean, the stuff you get on Twitter from people actually there was incredible. And especially, too, when some misinformation came out, it got corrected in real time. So it was just a wild weekend. And you may live 100 years. You will never see a more powerful moment than when Donald Trump rose up triumphantly on the stage, raised his hands, and started to shout, "Fight, fight, fight," with blood running down his face and the crowd chanting USA. I mean, what a moment. The one picture that was captured in time by an Associated Press reporter, Evan Vucci, V-U-C-C-I. It will be a Pulitzer Prize winner, no doubt. It's already on T-shirts and pictures and frames and hats and everything else, and rightfully so. What a moment. And, of course, the left-wing media, they crop out the American flag part of this picture because they can't have it be too patriotic. But what a moment. And Trump recognized in that moment how important it was for him to reassure not just his fans, not just the MAGA crowd, but to reassure America that he was okay and that this country is going to be okay. This was a guy that just got shot, didn't know if there was other shooters in the crowd, didn't know if explosives were going to go off, and he took the time to make sure he reassured everybody that he was okay and that this country is okay. What a statement from Donald Trump, and how resilient is Donald Trump. They've tried to impeach him. They've tried to arrest him. They've tried convicting him. They've tried killing him. And Donald Trump is continuing to move forward, and he took a literal bullet for us. And you better believe we will be at the ballot box for him. It's the least we can do. Now, of course, we cannot talk about this. For so many of us, we thank God. God was watching over Trump on that day. There was the pictures of the flag in the shape of the angel. July 13th, when this happened, was also the anniversary of the third vision of Our Lady of Fatima. So God definitely had his hand on Donald Trump on Saturday. There's no doubt about it. But the tragedy of the day was that Corey Compatore, a firefighter, and father, a first-class father, was shot in the head and killed, died a hero protecting his wife and kids. He was shot right in the head and died, they say, almost instantly, I would imagine. Other Trump supporters that were in the crowd were wounded as well. And the Trump crowd, the MAGA crowd, and I'm going to talk to Sean now. This is what I try to do. I try to get the best possible guests for you guys today. I've got 5 guests on the show. I've never done this before on any program in over a year of doing this show. But the first 2 guests you're going to hear from are not only just people that were on the stage prior to Donald Trump speaking, but were just 20 feet away or less from Donald Trump when he was shot in the ear. So I'm honored that I'm going to have Sean Parnell here, and also Slippery Rock Mayor Jondavid Longo is going to be here as well, first up. So I want to get to the interviews, but I just want to kind of give you my take. First of all, my prayers and my thoughts go out to Corey Compatore and his family. The Facebook post by his daughter was very emotional to read. I couldn't get through it without getting emotional. I'm a father of 4 kids and a daughter myself, and his daughter's words were beautiful, a tribute to her dad. Such a heartbreaking thing to read, and their lives are completely shattered. But the patriots in this country have risen to the occasion, because the GoFundMe to raise money for the victims of this day, of this assassination attempt on President Trump, has already raised over $3 million. It's still rising. If you want to contribute, I have the link to it down there in the description below. So show your support, or at least share the link if you would like to. Obviously, Corey died a hero at the hands of a coward. And now, here we go with this. What are we going to know? What is the truth? And that's what we want, is the truth. Are we going to get that from the FBI, who is in charge of the investigation? I think you'd have to be delusional to believe that. The FBI, this is the same FBI that spied on Trump's campaign, the same FBI that raided Mar-a-Lago. This is the FBI led by Christopher Wray, who hate Donald Trump, who know that Donald Trump cannot get anywhere near the White House again, or they are finished. The whistle will be blown on all of them. The curtain will come up on the corruption that is involved, so they cannot allow this man back in the White House, and they are the ones in charge of investigating this. So take that for what it's worth. Here's the questions I have. I'm going to ask these when I get Rob O'Neill, because there was obviously a security breakdown of epic proportions. What CBS was reporting last night was that the sniper team had their eye on who they call Thomas Matthew Crooks. They had their eye on him as he went up on the roof, came down from the roof, returned to the roof with a rangefinder, left the roof again, came back on the roof with a backpack. Now, the reports are that they witnessed all of this. So the questions, number one, are, for me, why was there no police officer on the roof? This isn't like it was a Manhattan City block with 80 buildings and 30,000 windows. There's 3 buildings in the entire region. I'll put the overhead shot here. There's only a certain number. You don't even need that many people. Put one guy on each roof. I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer that you would have a cop on each roof here, because it's a clear vantage point for a would-be assassin. Number 2, where the hell are the drones? I mean, this is 2024. You go to the beach, there's drones flying around everywhere. Where are the drones, the surveillance drones that should be up there beaming down the live feed to some officer in a van with air conditioning on so they can monitor the whole thing? Why are there no drones buzzing around? I want to ask Sean and the mayor if they've seen any out there, because none of the video that I've watched, I haven't seen any drones anywhere. Number 3, why, if they did spot some suspicious activity like this kid climbing up the ladder up onto a roof, why did they not get Trump off the stage immediately? I understand, hey, we don't know what's going on. Maybe it's a cop. Maybe it's just a spectator trying to get a better view. Okay, I'll buy that. Why don't you immediately get Trump off the stage until you verify what is actually going on? Makes no sense. Number 4, why did they wait till he shot first before the security team opened fire? Why, if the rules of engagement are in play, which I don't believe they are, I don't believe that. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll ask Rob. Maybe he knows about that. Does the Secret Service need to wait until someone shoots at the president before they can take him out? Aiming a gun in the direction of the president doesn't call for the guy to be shot immediately. But number 2, the minute that they did see a guy aiming the gun, why was Trump not rushed off the stage? And number 5, Why in the world did it take so long to get Trump off of that stage? I mean, we remember when Ronald Reagan was shot, it's like you blinked your eyes. He was in the car and the car was already on Fifth Street. Like, it was gone. There was no, so why did it take so long? I understand Trump resisted the Secret Service. He put his fist up in the air. He made that iconic moment. I get that. But even after that, it seemed like it took them so long to get him off the stage. You would think there'd be a better protocol for a swiftness. Again, I'm Monday morning quarterback. Our law enforcement officers, our Secret Service, they're brave people. Obviously, they do a job I could never do. I have nothing but honor and respect for our men and women in blue. But this was a colossal failure here. There's no other way to put it. And a lot of people have been saying, and I want to get to the guests here. I'm going to have Sean Parnell on and Mayor Longo in just a minute. But I just want to make these 2 points here. Number one, people are saying like, oh, thank God the kid was a lousy shot. Thank God he missed terribly. And I don't know how in the world you could think this kid was a bad shot, because when you look at the circumstances here, this kid is on the top of this building and in broad daylight, exposed. He knows that the minute he takes this shot, he's going to be killed instantly, unless he's a mentally challenged person that doesn't have any clue of reality. He knows the minute he opens fire, he's dead. His heart rate has got to be pumping 100 million miles a minute. There's people down below yelling up and screaming at the kid, hey, there's a guy with a gun. They're telling the police. He knows any moment the jig is up. He's in a rush, and he manages to put this bullet right where he wanted it. He put the bullet right on target. Trump turns his head at the last second in a divine intervention, and the bullet nicks his ear. If he doesn't move his head, and here it is in slow-mo, if he doesn't move his head, he is dead. The bullet went right where this kid wanted to place it. So, bad shot? I don't think so. You factor in the wind trajectory. The wind was obviously blowing. That's why the flag was in the shape of an angel. This kid put the thing right on target. Trump moved his head last split second. He is alive. The other thing is the Secret Service returned fire. Everyone's praising, Secret Service, what a great job. What an amazing shot. For me, this number one, this guy should have been taken down before he fired the first bullet. Number two, it's a shot that the guy has to make. I mean, we're talking like if Tom Brady throws a 10-yard slant over the middle, right on the button, do we go, oh my God, what an amazing pass by Tom Brady? No, he's the greatest player of all time. He should be able to make a 10-yard slant. For this sniper from the Secret Service, this should be a relatively very simple shot for him to make. So yes, congratulations, you made the shot. Where were you minutes ago to save the life of Corey and prevent the president from getting shot? Too little, too late. And I don't know what these women Secret Service agents were doing. This was a comedy of errors. This was the Keystone Cops. This is a DEI hire, and it's at its worst. Look at these three women, especially this woman here, and I'll zoom in on her because from the dribble, she is in a state of panic. She has no idea where the hell she is going. She's saying it in the transcript. You can hear her on the recording, but in the transcript, it says, where do we go? Where do we go? What do we do? She has no idea what the hell she's doing. You can see this picture of her crouching down behind everybody. I mean, this was embarrassing for her and her family that this is out there. Here she is trying to holster the weapon into her badge. She hits it twice. She has to take her eyes off target to look down. Then she looks around to see if anybody noticed that she couldn't get the gun holstered, and then has to take her eyes off target again to put the gun back into her waist. I mean, this was very bad, very, very bad to witness that these are the people protecting President Donald Trump. A very, very scary moment there. But here is now the director of the Secret Service, Kim Cheadle, says she's not going to resign. And that's an embarrassment. It's been 43 years since we've seen anything like this where a president or former president was hit with a bullet. This should be automatic resign. This was such a sloppy operation. She should have to resign immediately. I don't even know why she'd have to resign. She should be fired. She should be immediately removed. But here she is talking about just how important it is. Her main focus is getting more female officers into the Secret Service by 2030. Watch this.
To expand hiring, they're aiming to have 30% women recruits by 2030, and even allowed YouTube influencer Michelle Carre to train with agents.
But I'm very conscious as I sit in this chair now of making sure that we need to attract diverse candidates and ensure that we are developing and giving opportunities to everybody in our workforce, and particularly women.
That workforce will be pivotal for the 2024 campaign season, which for the first time includes a former president who already has lifetime protection. Agents were there when Donald Trump was arraigned in New York.
We were able to work out the details ahead of time of how that particular day was going to go, but we will always ensure the safety of all of our protectees that we have.
The service has a zero-fail mission, a mission officers are training to uphold, pretending this field is the most famous address in America.
See, here's the DEI. This is the issue with this. It's not about merit. It's about what the person looks like. And once you start doing that, you're in the wrong direction. You're on the wrong track. You need the people in there that are the best of the best. It has nothing to do with, oh, we need a certain amount of women on the squad. We need a certain amount of black people on the squad. We need a certain amount of Hispanics. Once you start playing that game, you're not playing to win. You're playing to be fair. And being fair is a losing strategy when it comes to your life and death type of situation. I don't want the fair person coming to rescue me from a fire. I don't want the fair person come to me when there's a stick up in the bank and I'm in there with them. I don't want the fair person. I want the highest qualified person possible coming to save me and my family. I would expect nothing less. It's not the world we live in right now. The world we live in is, well, yeah, there are better qualified people, but we do need to have more women on the force. When you start saying that, whoever's in charge should say, are you out of your mind? Are you seriously coming to me with this? I don't care if you're the last person picked on the team in gym class. This isn't sixth grade. When it comes to the highest levels of security, all that bullshit has to go out the window. This isn't the Coors Light or who was it, the Bud Light team in development? Like, oh, we have to be more inclusive. This is the top of the chain here. What are we talking about? Now, Joe Biden, again, I'm going to bring Sean Parnell and Mayor on just a second here. There's so much that has happened, so I'm trying to blow through it as quick as I can with you. Joe Biden comes out and makes the statement, we got to tone down the temperature in the country with the politics. And that's not hyperbole, as he would like to say. That's actually what he said. Joe Biden, who just 2 weeks ago said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye, is saying that we have to tone down the temperature. The temperature is only high because of the Democrats. Here's just a couple of his tweets recently, a month ago. I'll put them on the board. Americans want a president, not a dictator. America needs to wake up and realize that Trump and MAGA Republicans, what they are trying to do. Project 2025 is deadly serious. It was a project built for Trump, and it's the biggest attack on our freedoms in history. Trump said that if he wins, he'll be a dictator day one. We must stop him. I'm deadly serious. We know what he says. He calls Trump a dictator. He calls Trump Hitler. The left has been doing this for years. They've been doing this. They are radicalizing these left-wing lunatics and have convinced them that Trump is worse than Hitler. So I would ask you, if you were given the opportunity to get into a time machine like the DeLorean and go back in time, would you kill Hitler if you had the opportunity? Yes or no? I think without question, you would say, of course I would kill Hitler, right? So if today you're being told that there's a person here that's actually worse than Hitler, and they're not kidding about it, they're dead serious, and they've been telling you this over and over and over again, it's justified in your mind that for the greater good, for the name of humanity, I'm going to kill Hitler. And you saw that unfold on Saturday. Again, if the case, I don't believe for a second that this is a lone wolf operation. If you think that some rando kid can get up on the high ground within 150 yards of the president in broad daylight with a clear line of fire and get 5 to 8 shots off and hit the president, you are one of the dumbest people on the planet. There's no way you could ever get that. There's zero chance that some random kid could outsmart the Secret Service in order to make that happen, unless there was some help from the inside. This kid wasn't nervous about climbing up on top of that building, holding a rifle, knowing that if he's spotted with it, I would think in my mind, like if I'm going to pull this, I would think the minute somebody sees me, I'm going to have my head blown off. This kid seemed to operate without any fear of that. There's multiple videos of him being up on the roof, people yelling, and he's still just continuing to do it. You would think the minute one person says, hey, there's a guy on the roof with a gun, it's time to pack it in. That's it. The jig is up. Let me come down and just say, oh, you're trying to get away at that point. So the rhetoric is continuing from the Democrats. We've seen it. They call you a right-wing extremist. It's not just against Trump. It's against the MAGA supporters. They have turned up that temperature time and time again. We've heard it from all the celebrities. Johnny Depp, when he was like, oh, when's the last time an actor killed the president? Snoop Dogg did it in a music video, pretended to kill Trump. Kathy Griffin held up the bloodied head of Donald Trump. Madonna talked about blowing up the White House. This is a regular, we're so used to hearing it from the left. They're the ones that are they're the ones that cause the violence. Where are the violence? Joe Biden just told you recently that MAGA extremists are the greatest threat to this country. They're the greatest domestic terrorist threat to the country. You just tried to kill their leader. Where were the riots? Where were the buildings burning down? Where was the violence? This is, remember, the most dangerous group in the country. And there was zero reaction after you tried to kill Donald Trump? So you know it's bullshit. You know the violence comes from the left. That's where all the lunatics are. Look what happened when Kyle Rittenhouse shot at a protest that was going on there, right? Who did he hit? He hit a pedophile, a rapist, and a criminal. Every person that he hit was a criminal, a rapist, or a pedophile. You shoot into a MAGA crowd, and what do they end up hitting? A hardworking American family man. That's the difference between the two. And again, my prayers are for Corey Compatore and his family. Tragic to see. So, all right. So Joe Biden wants to turn down the rhetoric. I don't see that happening. Donald Trump made his announcement. J.D. Vance, they came out right away, calling him the populist, the nationalist. He's a greater threat than Donald Trump for the future of the party, this whole bit. So the temperature hasn't toned down at all. This, you talk about the great triumphant moment of Trump raising his fist. Here he is walking back into public eye with the bandage on his ear, taking his seat at the RNC. The place erupted. He ends up standing there next to his now running mate, J.D. Vance. What are your thoughts on J.D. Vance? We're going to get into that a little more later in the program. When I have Clay Clark on, we'll get more into that. What's your my take was it wasn't my top pick, but it also wasn't my bottom pick. I had my bottom pick was I prayed that he didn't pick Nikki Haley. I think many of us would agree on that. I was hoping he didn't pick Doug Burgum. I was hoping for a Vivek Ramaswamy or a Ben Carson or a Michael Flynn, but he went with J.D. Vance. That's who it is. We get behind the ticket and we go forward. Does the vice president, does this make a big difference? Does it draw more voters in? Does it help in some way? I hope so. Well, that remains to be seen. But it's Trump-Vance 2024. All right, so let's get into some of these interviews here. I've kept you long enough. There's been so much going on. July 13th is obviously, it's a day that's going to live in infamy. It's a day that we almost lost President Donald Trump. And Sean Parnell, who is a combat veteran, a Purple Heart recipient, New York Times bestselling author, and a friend of mine, was there on the stage prior to Trump coming out. He was standing just about 20 feet from the president when the shots went off. And him and Mayor Longo, who's going to join me right after, these guys, I'm telling you, they were heroes that day. Because you see how calm that crowd was, and I really do believe it's because they had people in the crowd like Sean, like Mayor Longo, who are combat veterans, who were able to keep some order, and that calmness is contagious. But here's a video of Sean and Mayor Longo together helping to evacuate a wounded MAGA supporter on that day. And just, so many people do so many good things in times like this. And I just want to read this before I bring Sean on. This was a tweet from his wife, Melanie. Melanie Parnell tweeted this out, and I just wanted to read it to you guys. Sean Parnell doesn't talk much about his time in war, but tonight I got a glimpse of what he was like as a combat leader. He kept people calm and had them take cover, carried people to the medical tent, got people moving and evacuated, pushed many people in wheelchairs to safety. After he got me secured in the car, he went back in to help more people. He's a hero, and I'm so proud of him. and I'm proud to know him. He is a hero. I haven't interviewed anybody or had anybody on my show more than Sean Parnell. 750 guests on First Class Fatherhood. Sean has been the person I've interviewed most there. 140 guests here on the Alec Lay Show. Sean has been the most common person that I've had, the most popular person I've had on this show as well. I'm honored to know him. Let's get his perspective from being right there, ground zero, July 13th. Let's bring him on.
You're listening to the Alec Lay Show. The future is family.
All right, here we go. Joining me now, Sean Parnell. Welcome back to the Alec Lay Show.
Hey, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Listen, I'm honored that you're taking the time out of your day here to give me a few minutes. I know your last few days have been absolutely, crazy. If you could, just in a simple capsule form, Sean, take me through the moments, your vantage point of what went down.
Okay. Well, first, let me tell you, I been on the stage with President Trump 5 times. And from the moment that I walked into that rally, something just felt different. Like it was surreal or something in the air. Couldn't quite put my finger on it. I spoke on stage. The flag got twisted up, but ended up looking like an angel or Jesus on the cross or an eagle. It was crazy. Crazy enough that for the last 48 hours, people have been sending me different vantage points of it happening. And I didn't see it at the time, but I'm seeing it now and piecing it all together 48 hours after the fact. And so I went and I talked with President Trump backstage, and it was about 30 minutes before everything happened. And I got outside to where I was sitting, which is right in the front row. If you watch the rally on television, I was directly to the president's left. Like maybe 20 feet away from where the podium was. And President Trump is doing his usual shtick. And he's like, and I'm paraphrasing here. He said, these teleprompters, like, can we go have script? These teleprompters, they're boring. I tell my people they're boring. And like, you have my favorite graphic, my immigration graphic. And they flashed that immigration graphic up on the screens behind us. We're behind President Trump. And so President Trump looks, I guess he's at the podium here. He looks this way, right? Bends over. Oh, you see that there? That's my favorite arrow. And he comes back and engages the crowd. And then he turns again, just like this. And it was at that moment, 5 or 6 shots rang out. And I watched the whole thing. And I heard the shots. I saw President Trump grab his ear, do something like this, and just went prone, which, by the way, was the exact right, from a tactical standpoint, exactly what he was supposed to do. But then the Secret Service was on him. And before I knew what was happening, because I knew instantly that it was sniper fire, instantly. I had my wife, who was right next to me on the ground. And I mean, we could hear the bullets crack over our head, just like a whip. You could hear them. And that's how I knew the shooter was close. Hear the sound of the actual rifle go off, and it goes supersonic and crack over your head. So I knew it was close. I knew it had to be a 223, likely nothing bigger than that, just based on the sound it made when the rifle went off. And got Melanie down on the ground. And JD, who was right next to me, his wife is pregnant. He gets her on the ground, and everybody else around us is kind of standing around. By the way, I don't mean that in a negative way. People were saying, oh, it's fireworks. I'm like, it's not fireworks. It's a sniper. Everybody get down on the ground. And so let me give you a sense of how everything, so when you're in a moment like that, Alex, it's like, I don't have to tell you, you know what I mean, but kind of kaleidoscopes around you. So lots of things happen at once. And so first 5 shots rang out. Trump grabs his ear, goes prone, Secret Service is on him. And then I hear the thump. A few seconds later, 2, 3, 4 seconds later, of a sniper, the counter sniper engaging with a heavier caliber rifle. And then at the exact same moment, there was a few more shots. And so I think they were engaging at the same time. And that's when I think the people sitting right behind us were tragically hit, one in the stomach and one in the head. And immediately, as I had my wife down and was trying to get, Congressman and Dave McCormick, everybody I got them all down too. I immediately started. I mean, it's crazy how like you just kind of. I haven't been in combat in 20 years, but I've been shot at more times than I can count. But it's crazy how like it just you kick right back into it. But immediately was trying to like ascertain where the shooter was, and instantly in the chaos of the moment, it was like, okay, that building right there, or that water tower, right? If I'm a sniper, that's where I'm setting up. But instantly, I checked myself, Alex, because I was like, well, there's no way, no way. Like the Secret Service would 100% have those two locations on lockdown. But I was wrong. They didn't.
You know, one thing I wanted to ask you, Sean, during the day, did you happen to notice any drones at all in the air or any helicopters flying overhead? Were there any drones up there in the air or no?
There was helicopters, yes. But yeah, but it was like, there were no, like, it's hard to tell with drones nowadays. Like, no, sometimes like back in the day when you used drones in Afghanistan, you could hear them if you were listening. Now drones are so silent, but I don't think so. And so all this is going down. I know that the counter snipers have engaged. I get confirmation from law enforcement that the shooter is down, Alex. And I just started thinking, okay, you have the Secret Service that has their mission. They had the president. And while all of this is going on, I'm looking out of the corner of my eye, like over the bar and then over my shoulder to try to get a sense of where the sniper was. And I see President Trump stand up, but he's got Secret Service all over him, so I can't see his face. But obviously he's alive, and I just see his fist out of the crowd, and the crowd go nuts. And I'm like, okay, so they've got the Secret Service has Trump. They were moving him off the stage. The law enforcement SWAT guys, they were pursuing the shooter. Some of the law enforcement guys, like I think the state police, they were there trying to help with Kazovac. But now we were left with 30,000+ people just there. And at that time, and I cannot stress this enough, like, this has not been talked about enough, but I was operating under the assumption, and I talked with law enforcement about this as we were evacuating casualties, but I was under the assumption that we were operating under the assumption that there were two shooters, because there is a vehicle to the right of President Trump. Again, if you're watching him on television, heavy piece of construction machinery or something, Alex, and like the hydraulic line on that popped. And it was difficult to tell if the round was coming from the other direction. And so I'm thinking like, well, okay, well, they might have gotten that shooter, but now you've got 30,000 people out here, and everyone's just kind of standing around, nowhere to go. So we started moving people out. So I started saying to people, okay, follow this line, take cover behind this barrier. It's not going to protect you. It's just concealment. It's not actual cover, but like move slowly to the exit. And then again, what nobody's really talking about, Alex, is that like it was 95 degrees out. I mean, it was so hot, and there were elderly people there who had just experienced something traumatic, and people started like passing out and heat casualties. So JD and I just started carrying people to the aid station as we were trying to evacuate the crowd. And Rico Elmore was there as well. Rico was like right there trying to treat the man who was hit in the head. And so he was involved. It's interesting. Like Army, JD's a Marine, and Rico Elmore's Air Force. But all three of us were kind of at ground zero as all this is going on, working together and trying to get heat casualties to the tent, and started evacuating casualties. And as we're kind of getting the crowd moving in the right direction, like all littered across like where the rally, the speaking, like where we were, the speaking plate, like, I don't know, the objective is what I call it, but it's a military term. Like where everything was going down, there were people who were wheelchair bound that were stuck.
Wow.
And I mean, people don't think about that, but like and they weren't like left behind, Alex, but they were like pushed by elderly people with elderly people occupying them, and they had absolutely nowhere to go, and they were sitting ducks. And so, we wrangled up a couple of America First patriots who probably didn't have much training, but we got them all cover and concealment, staged them in an area, and then grabbed one guy in a wheelchair, wheeled him out, and got my wife secure in a car, and then ran back in, and one by one with a bunch of America First patriots just getting wheelchair people out. And
And
so
what is the communication like at that point, Sean? Are you guys aware that the shooter is down? There's no more threats. Or are you still
yeah,
doing this under the assumption that there could still be some live fire in the area? Like, what have you been communicated to by anybody that everything was good and clear?
I was engaging with, it's kind of funny how it just kind of fell into this, but I was engaging with and talking with the police as we were evacuating casualties, and they did confirm to me that the shooter was down. And I said, but there could easily be another shooter out here. If it's me, if I planned that, which I would never, for people who are, I would never, but typically a tactic, technique, and procedure for something like this. You have one shooter engage, it causes chaos, especially when there's a crowd. Okay. And so then you wait for 30 minutes to go by. People get complacent. Secret Service moves the president. And then you've got large masses of people bunching together as they walk out, which presents a really great target of opportunity. We experience this in Afghanistan all the time. And further, if there's some sort of improvised explosive device, and we're coming to learn now that the shooter had some explosives in his car, you have an improvised explosive device, one exit, everybody drive in the same direction. All it takes is sending a text message to that improvised explosive device to blow it up. So that was what I was trying to communicate to the law enforcement, and they completely agreed. So we were operating under the assumption that it was not safe, it was not secure, try to move people out as safely as possible. But yeah, we were, law enforcement, even if things went as they should have gone, which they did not. Like, that is very clear. Like, that should have never happened. Like a building less than 150 meters away, direct line of sight to the president. You don't have to be General freaking Patton to know that somebody should have been on that building,
Yep.
But even if things went perfectly, I mean, the cops, Secret Service, they would have been strapped. They would have been able to deal with 30,000 people. So,
well, just with the crowd, though, Sean, obviously, I'm just watching whatever news footage that they have available. You're there on the ground. One of the most amazing things about this was that any video I've ever seen of a shooting where there's a crowd taking a shooting taking place where there's a large crowd, the crowd immediately disperses like cockroaches, running over, stampeding, and like that. It's chaos. It didn't seem that way on TV. It seemed like everybody. I don't know. Is that because they felt secure that the Secret Service were there? I don't know what that was, but it just seemed like they were very calm.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because you are correct. Again, the media would have you believe that Trump supporters are all racist, closed-minded, xenophobic idiots, but they stood there knowing that there was just an assassination attempt on our president. They were calm. They didn't rush out. They didn't stampede. They didn't hurt anybody. They were patriots who comported themselves well under fire. Because I'm sure some people in that crowd have been under fire before, but the vast majority were not, and they did extraordinarily well. I was blown away by how awesome people were, and that really needs to be a larger part of the story. Was how we talk about this country being exceptional, when that people are what make this country exceptional, and they really showcased that on Saturday.
I think one of the benefits that they had, Sean, is you have people in the crowd, many of them, somebody like you're a Purple Heart recipient, you've been shot at multiple times, you're somebody that can remain calm in chaos, and I think that calm is contagious. I think by seeing people like you, seeing other veterans or combat veterans that are there that are remaining calm, I think that does a lot to keep that kind of crowd calm in itself. You see other people reacting with some sense of purpose and calmness. I think that does become contagious.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, they made it easy. I mean, like, I had a lot of help, was a small part of a much larger effort of people who stepped up when they needed to. And it was really it was remarkable to behold. The story is, of course the story is going to be about, the shooter, and because it's an unprecedented thing to happen, especially in American history. I mean, it's just unbelievable how close we came to forever altering the trajectory of this country, millimeters away from that. So of course people should be talking about that. And of course people need to be talking about like the failures and how we got to there, because that has to be discussed so it never happens again. But I don't want it to get lost in the sauce about just how amazing the American people of Pennsylvania reacted in that moment, because they were They were amazing. They were amazing.
And also, too, for them, it's almost kind of like a Mike Tyson fight. You show up, you wait all this time, and then Trump only spoke for a few minutes, and then it was over. And it was like, well, wait a minute. Usually Trump goes for about an hour and a half, so all these people are just getting ready to hear him. And just like that, it was over. And I guess it had to be kind of like you said, what do we do now? You got 30, 40,000 people standing around, and they don't know what to do. They're not getting much direction. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. Are there still threats? So I can't. And like you said, it's 100 degrees out, 90-something degrees out, people sweating. Yes. I mean, what an amazing event. I have been consuming it like I haven't consumed news since I think 9/11. I've been that keyed into it, and I'm just still shocked by it.
I could not agree with you more. The reason why, I mean, this is just a theory that I have, but I think the reason why people remember where they were after an event like 9/11 is because it engages all our senses simultaneously: sight, sound, smells. It puts us there, and it engages us on an emotional level over top of all of that. This is one of those moments where the American people are going to remember what they were wearing, where they were, who they were talking to, what was happening in their lives at exactly the moment where somebody tried to kill President Trump. And, what's crazy is that for months, I and many, many others with bigger platforms than me had said, hey, the way that the left is talking, like, this is going to be the end state of all of this. They're escalating things and escalating things and escalating things. Like, it's gonna happen. And unfortunately it did, but it failed. Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah, and we worry now, obviously. I mean, there's a long way to November now. It's not just about keeping Donald Trump alive and safe till November, getting him elected. He's got 4 years. I mean, there is going to be plenty of more opportunities for stuff like this, and you just got to pray that the security around him is going to be so much better than it was that day. And like you said, everybody had the same thing immediately. I've been to several of these Trump events. I was even talking to my teenage son, who you met down there at CPAC in Washington. We seen the security. It's like, there's no way. And the thing is this: if a 20-year-old kid can get 130 miles away with a clear line of sight in an elevated position on a windy day and put a shot right on target to hit Trump's ear, what would a professional Russian assassin have done on that day, or any type of country, a professional trained assassin? What would they have been capable of doing?
I could not agree with you more. It really does. What happened also creates, I think, a future danger, because it shows to the world the weakness of President Trump's security that he has around him. It's so true. And whatever hole is in their tactics, techniques, and procedures needs to be filled like yesterday.
Last thing here, too, because I know I got to get you out of here. Do you think we'll see Trump do more outdoor rallies? I mean, I know he's speaking at the RNC this week and stuff, but do you think that's the end of seeing these big, like we had one here in Wildwood in New Jersey just a couple of months ago? Do you think that's the end of these outdoor rallies?
No, I know in Trump the way that I do. I will never speak for him, but that he's not going to be deterred by this. And his reaction, by the way, it's another part of this. Like, his reaction in that moment where the rubber met the road, someone tries to take his life. First of all, stands up and says, fight. Amazing. That's what people needed to see in this moment. The leadership that he demonstrated was what this country needs. And 12 hours later, 24 hours later, hey, we got to unite. Come on. Like,
epic.
It's absolutely epic. He's the leader that this country desperately needs right now. And hopefully we'll have in November.
Well, listen, you're a leader that the crowd needed on that day, and you were there. You are a hero. I know you'll never say it. You protected your wife. You helped people get out there. You're pushing people around, evacuating the hurt. Thank God that you were there and others like you were there on that day. Thank you for taking a few minutes of your time here, and I'll have you on again down the line, Sean.
All right. Thanks, brother. See you soon.
All right, honored to have Sean Parnell back on the podcast. What you guys think about his perspective, where he was, what was going on? Just an amazing day, just an incredible experience that it must have been to be there, be on stage, be just feet away from Trump and watch this all go down while you're worried about your wife and others that are around you. It turned into a tragic day, obviously, with Corey Compatore being killed and others being critically wounded. But President Donald Trump alive, and it's just really amazing. And Sean Parnell should be the senator in Pennsylvania. There's what they did to that guy. They totally railroaded him. and he is an American hero. No doubt Trump will include him in some type of capacity. I mean, he is too valuable to leave on the shelf. So hopefully he's back in the political scene sooner rather than later. And he was right there. Again, I'll roll the clip here, the footage. He was right there and talking. You hear him talking about JD. He's talking about Mayor Jondavid Longo, the mayor of Slippery Rock, who was on stage. And then here he is right here backstage with President Trump. And moments after this picture was taken here is when Trump came out to the crowd. And then moments later after that was shot in the ear. So Mayor Jondavid Longo, he is a combat veteran, Marine. His wife was there with him. She's pregnant, so I can only imagine that adds to your emotional stress level. Let's bring him on and get his story.
You're listening to the Alec Lake Show. The future is family.
All right, joining me now live in Milwaukee at the RNC, Mayor Jondavid Longo. Welcome to the Alec Lake Show.
Thank you for having me on, Alec. Appreciate the opportunity to chat with you today.
Listen, it's an honor to have you on here, especially all that you've been through over the last several days here. I know it's been a whirlwind for you. Now you're out there at the RNC, but please, if you could, I was just speaking with Sean Parnell, who was there with you on the ground during this absolute tragedy that took place, near death for our president. Take me, if you could, in a simple capsule form. Take me right through that from your vantage point and how it went down.
Right. Sure. So my vantage point was very similar to Sean's in that we were seated next to him and his wife. My wife and I were seated next to him and his wife. And my gosh, I mean, where to start? You know, the day just took a total 180. It was all smiles. Sean and I had just gotten back from backstage to our seats we had gone backstage to meet the president. We had pleasant conversation with the president. The president was even kind enough to compliment me on my remarks during the pre-program and the leading of the Pledge of Allegiance. So needless to say, I was flattered. My wife and I were just grateful to the president for his time. 15 minutes later, we were in our seats next to Sean. And that's when chaos broke out and this violent maniac decided to do violence against President Trump and the attendees of his rally. And let me just say one thing before I go any further. What's most important here, the story that's most important here is the story of a hero fire chief of a local small town in the Butler area, Corey Comprador, who lost his life because of this maniac, and who I understand was a hero in his own right already as a firefighter, and who not only lived a hero then, but died a hero in that moment. And my thoughts and prayers are out with his family, and also with the individuals who were injured. I understand that there are quite a few people who are in very bad shape. And so we're just, praying for them, and all of Slippery Rock is praying for everybody affected.
Mr. Mayor, there, it's so important because, for all of us, it's a day of relief that, thank God, President Trump is alive, and it was a near-death experience for him. He was almost taken out. So a lot of us almost celebrate, in a sense, the fact that he escaped death. But for that family, for Corey's family, that is a day that will live in infamy for them. It has a totally different meaning for them, and it will always affect their lives in a much different way. Their day was a lot more tragic than the rest of the world. And so it's so sad that although this lunatic didn't happen to kill the president, he happened to kill a father who absolutely, by all accounts, was a first-class father who loved his children fiercely. And it was such a tragedy to see. Now, from your vantage point, though, while you were there, did you happen to notice any drones in the air? Did you happen to notice any aerial support or any kind of aerial security going on over there?
Yeah, being a Marine, I'm always vigilant and looking around. But and let me say this too: inside the venue, security that was there, the Secret Service on the ground, local law enforcement professionals inside were dedicated to everyone's safety. And when things started to go sideways, I saw them act swiftly and address the situation and neutralize the threat right away. So first, I want to say we're thankful to those that were on the ground with us and helping us the best they can. As for the overall security of the venue, it's difficult for me to say. So I'm only going to speak from my perspective. You have to understand I was on stage briefly for the pre-program, said a few remarks, led the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I was taken backstage shortly after to go and meet the president. So I didn't spend a whole lot of time in my seat to observe the venue as a whole. A lot of my time was spent backstage. It's I know that folks have a lot of thoughts and opinions on the matter, but I just want to give I want to give my regards to the law enforcement professionals and the medical professionals who are on the ground inside the venue with us. They're all heroes in their own right.
Because you know what's odd is that, just a couple of weeks ago, I was with you out in Detroit. And when we were in there, the day that Trump was going to speak, much earlier in the day, everyone went through security. And then there was a staffer that opened like a back door to the building. And so because that happened, they had to get everybody out and re-sweep the building. So it's like, I've been at several of these events with Trump. The security is always so tight. So it's so hard to imagine that something like this could have happened. Somebody could have gotten this close to the president. What was going through your mind? Did you think right away, like, wow, this is an actual assassination? What was going through your mind the minute that the bullet started flying?
So, my ear is maybe perhaps a little bit more trained than most, having spent time in the Marines as an infantry rifleman. So my ear recognized that crack of the rounds incoming and hitting. But I didn't want to believe it. And nobody else did either. I mean, nobody moved. The president didn't move. He was so steadfast. And I think, his steadfastness stuck with us too. But, it became obvious when the second, the third, the fourth rounds came in quick succession shortly thereafter, that what I didn't want it to be, I realized was right, and that was that this maniac was shooting, and it was coming from directly behind us. The shooter was on a rooftop, directly to my 6 o'clock. He was shooting through the bleachers behind me, and over me to get to the president, and that's where Fire Chief Corey Comprador was sitting in the bleachers, who lost his life. And gosh, my first thoughts were just to everyone around me, especially my wife, my in-laws, my sister, my friends. Just wanted to make sure everybody was safe, especially my wife, of course. So, telling everybody, along with Sean, he probably recounted some of this to you. We were telling everyone, get low, stay down. Sean kept saying, there could be another. Be careful. Our good friend Rico Elmore from Beaver County, he sprung into action. He was seated a few rows behind us, I think, and so he was much closer to Corey, and he did everything he could, of course, to try and help. But ultimately, that wound was just not something that Corey would be able to survive. But the point is that everybody, did their part in that moment, and everybody's calmness and coolness was to the benefit of everybody at that rally, because it could have been a whole lot worse if panic had ensued. When the evacuation began, after President Trump stood up in triumphant defiance and put his fist in the air. And by the way, I'm viewing this from 15 feet away from the president's right side. I saw him wrangle his arms, away from the Secret Service and stick his head and his fist up in the air. And that type of leadership that he showed to us in that moment gave us a short reprieve from the horror of that moment. And it was just what we needed to feel a little bit more secure in that he was letting us know he was okay. And it was a statement, at least in my mind, it was a statement. It was, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to see this through. We're going to keep pushing along, and there's nothing anybody can do to stop what's coming. And that is that, patriotic, God-fearing American men and women are going to show up in support of President Trump, and we're going to take this country back and do the right thing. And when I say do the right thing, I mean we're going to observe our laws. We're going to pray. We're going to pray hard for healing over this nation. And I'm certain that when we get to hear President Trump speak here at the RNC, he's going to give us a message of unity and hope and inspiration, and something that's not just going to bring together the whole of the United States, but the whole of the world. So very much looking forward to hearing that message.
Well said. Yeah, the world will be watching, Mayor. I mean, everyone is going to be can't wait to hear what he's going to have to say at the RNC. Now, the other thing too is that the crowd did remain calm. It was like almost eerily calm. That the way it looked on TV. I was saying this to Sean, like you guys were there, but for us on TV, it looked like the crowd remained calm. Did it continue that way all the way through till everybody got out of there? I know you guys were helping people evacuate. Did the crowd remain calm throughout this entire process?
Yeah, I got to tell you, and don't get me wrong, there were plenty of tears being shed there, and lots of frowns, and still very sad and serious situation on the ground. But overall, it was really impressive how calm the crowd was. And I remember saying specifically to those who were leaving the bleachers once the evacuation started, slow down, don't push, do not push. My fear was they were going to step on and over the folks who were still laying on the ground. Looking for cover. And I was just so impressed in that moment. Again, everybody did their part. And so that's why I think it's so important. While I'm grateful to be able to recount the moment and help tell this story from my perspective, it's so important to understand that there were hundreds of people who stood up in that moment to help their neighbors. And that's really the embodiment of who we are as conservative Americans, as Christians, as Republicans, as community members and good citizens overall. We just were caring about each other in that moment.
Yeah, amen. Well, right now you're there in Milwaukee for the RNC here. What is the sentiment there where you are? Have you noticed any heightened? I mean, obviously the security is always heightened. Any extra layers of security? What does it feel? What is the feel and the vibe there where you are?
Sure. This is my first RNC, so I can't tell you how much the security is different from other conventions that have been in the past. But I can tell you that the security looks, at least to me, to have been very tight. And obviously, there's a heightened sense of alertness, of vigilance, but the energy is incredible here. People are ready to go to see through to the end of this mission, and they're here en masse to support President Donald J. Trump. And I'm proud to be able to be here in this historic moment with all of these men and women to help see it through.
Yeah, great stuff. And last thing before I let you go, Mayor, I know your wife is pregnant. She's expecting. I've had 4 kids. I know how my wife got during her pregnancies, emotions going crazy and stuff. How was your wife during this entire episode, and how is she doing today? I mean, what toll did this take on her? How was her reaction while this was going down?
My wife is fine, thank God. She's healthy and she's okay. And I got to be honest with you. I mean, she was just such a champion in that time. I'm so blessed to have a strong wife in my life, somebody who is a strong woman, and I respect the heck out of her, the way that she composed herself in that moment. And I got to tell you too, if it weren't for me asking her and begging her, please stay down, put your head down, she would have been up and helping others because it's just in her nature. She doesn't care about herself. She's a very selfless individual. So I appreciate you asking. But she's doing well, thanks to God for that. My family are doing well. I think that we're all experiencing a mix of emotions, Alec. There's a sense of relief that we're safe, but we're also still very distraught and so sad for the loss of Fire Chief Corey Comprador and for the individuals who were injured. So that's where my wife's and mine, our thoughts and prayers are right now, and not with ourselves.
Yeah, and Americans agree with you. They've responded not only with their prayers, but with their pocketbook as well. They have raised a ton of money for the families that were affected. Mayor J.D. Longo, I hope you enjoy your time there. I'm grateful that the people on the ground had guys like you there to help keep them calm, guide them in that time of need. So God bless you for everything you do. You are a hero. I hope you know that. Thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time here on the Alec Lace Show.
Thank you for having me, Alec. Appreciate it, sir.
All right, honored to have Mayor Longo on the podcast as well. What you guys think about his vantage point, about his view? He's obviously, as we said, he's live there now at the RNC, where Trump now officially the candidate. He gets the top of the line Secret Service now. He doesn't get the second class or the second crew or the B team, whatever you want to call it. He gets the A team now, and you would hope that the security is, as good as it gets right now. I mean, we're not talking about just getting him to November. We're talking about 4 more years of him needing to have the best security in the country. So, and right now, we know that the security broke down. There was a major problem here, and we're going to bring in a guy right now that knows all about vantage points and perimeters, and he's the best of the best. The SEAL Team 6 operator, Rob O'Neill, New York Times best-selling author of The Operator. He's been on hundreds of direct action combat missions. He's a highly decorated former Navy SEAL. He's a renowned speaker, and he is my friend. So I'm curious to get his take on all this stuff. And let's bring him on. Let's do it.
You're listening to the Alec Lace Show. The future is family.
All right, here we go. Joining me now, Rob O'Neill. Welcome back to the Alec Lace Show.
Thanks for having me, Alec. Great to see you.
Well, listen, it's a pleasure to have you here. And I just I thought of you right away is to try to get some kind of a take from someone who's been there and done that. You fired a few shots in your life. You've set up perimeters and done all this stuff. The first question that I think everybody had was, why was there not a man on the roof adjacent from where Donald Trump was and have a direct line of sight. Now, just the latest was the Secret Service director, Kimberly Cheadle, says we didn't have a guy up there because the roof is sloped. So we thought it was dangerous. So what is your take on this whole thing?
I mean, that's ridiculous. She should have resigned before today. That's just ridiculous. It's sloped. What are you talking about? You can't. Come on. That's ridiculous. They're backpedaling right now because they violated the very simple part of a range card that a sniper sets up a counter sniper. They should have known Donald Trump was coming at least a few weeks ago. And the first thing you do, my first counter sniper job was in 1998 in Albania, and I mean, I set up a range card there to the point of even hand drawing a sketch of what was where, the distances, because sometimes you need to do what's called a hold with mil dots inside a reticle. I'm not going to get into that, but you need to know what is where and how far. You need to know the winds and all that stuff. But the first thing you do as a counter sniper is you stand where the principal is going to be, or the principals, what seats are going to be in, and especially the podium. And then you look around. Where are my threats? What's my most obvious threat? And to me, high ground in the daylight, 140 yards away, that's a threat. And at the very least, put a guy up there. I mean, when this first happened, I came out and I did say that I was happy with the Secret Service because, and I still stand by that. When there's active shooters, and you don't know how many there might be, just to run in there and jump on the principal, the guy they're obviously shooting at, that takes balls. I mean, even for the ladies that were there, for lack of a better term, good job doing that. Everything else, they dropped the ball. And I mean, the sniper lead should be fired. The director, Cheadle, should have resigned, but should be fired. It'll never happen because we know how these government agencies work. They're completely. I mean, this is a product of just letting stuff slide and not hiring by merit. There are so many things that have gone wrong. Like, are they that incompetent, or was it an inside job? I don't have the answer yet, and it's a shame because there are so many good people in those agencies, in the Secret Service, in the CIA, but they're being run by morons.
Well, this is why, too. Listen, I'm a railroad mechanic guy. Like, I've never been in these situations, so my hat goes off to all of you guys that serve and protect, because it's something that I'd never do. So I'm grateful that we have it, but at the same time, you can't help but look that there was a big problem here. This thing went drastically wrong. And the other question is, why were there no drones? I mean, I just had Sean Parnell on. He was 20 feet from the president when he was shot. Yeah. He didn't see any drones. He doesn't recall seeing them. Why shouldn't there have been drones in the air getting some kind of air surveillance?
Yeah. I mean, that's so cheap to get a drone up there. They're inexpensive. I mean, everyone's using them now. I mean, that's how you get such great footage of everything from movies to sharks, is because drones are so easy to fly. They didn't have them there. And again, is it incompetence, or was someone in on it? I mean, there were cops inside that building that kid was in. They said that they saw him outside with a rangefinder. I mean, I guarantee the guy's not on the 13th hole. He's getting a distance for what? I mean, you can stop him, or you can say to someone on the stage, the Secret Service, and say, hey, look, something shady. Get the principal off the stage right now until we clear this up. Nothing was done. And even the sniper who eventually shot him, he was looking at the dude for a minute, which, again, what this leads me to is I'm not thinking of it from a political point of view. I'm thinking of the human element. That sniper up there is a man with a family problem. I'm assuming. I don't know who he is, but he's looking at a potential shooter, but he's not shooting because he's also thinking about what happens to me if I shoot the wrong guy. What happens if that's just paparazzi? What happens if that's just, and he's thinking, because I've seen what happens to Marines when they defend people on a subway, they go to prison. Imagine a cop, especially the way cops are treated now, especially with Democrats in charge. What are they going to do if a police sniper shoots an unarmed civilian? It's curtains, man. They put cops in jail for life for really doing nothing.
You know, I understand that point, but my counter would be, okay, he doesn't want to take the shot because he may hit the wrong guy, but you see that there's a threat. Why not immediately radio say, get POTUS off this, or get Trump off the stage until we assess it? I mean, why was he still on the stage? There's video from guys in the crowd up to 5 minutes prior saying, hey, there's a guy on the roof with a gun. I mean, why didn't they get him off the stage?
I don't know. I mean, and because the point I was making about the snipers, he's trying to make sure it's a gun, and that's what he shouldn't be doing. He should be thinking about protecting the president. The guys on the stage, man, I mean, that's a complete breakdown in communication, it seems like to me. And I don't want to bash him because I wasn't there, and I don't like talking about stuff where I wasn't present. But drop the ball, and nobody's been fired yet. It's like, I mean, it's almost like the guy who killed Epstein was in charge.
Yeah, yeah, and the other thing too with the drone, you could get these drones $300 with a coupon on fucking Amazon. You could get one. Like everybody's got them, like you said. I can't believe there was no helicopters flying around. No, like this has got to be like high alert. Now, of course, we see Trump's got the nominee, so now all of a sudden he's got the big boys around him. Now he came into the RNC and it looked like he was covered by a pro football team the size of the guys that he had there. All of a sudden, all that other stuff went out the window. But now it's too little, too late. The president's got a bandage on his ear because he got shot in the head. I mean, this was a bad. I can only imagine if a kid like this, Rob, who they say is a 20-year-old pimply kid who can get 150 yards away from the president with a clear line of sight and an elevated position in broad daylight, what would a trained assassin have been able to do on that day?
That's point blank right there. That is the easiest shot in the world. I mean, you're at a point with an AR at a little over 100 yards. The wind doesn't really even affect the bullet. I mean, we're there, obviously the president turned his head, which is just outstanding. And it could have something to do with the angle because bullets travel differently when you're firing at an angle. But I guess this kid tried to join the rifle team at his high school and he was kicked out or dropped or whatever because he was so unsafe. So he's not good with the gun. And I mean, we're lucky he's not good with the gun. But I mean, I could hit that probably with a pistol from 100 yards. I mean, if you get a trained shooter, I mean, 500 yards realistically could be a headshot if you're shooting like a 300 Winchester Magnum or something like that. Out to 1,000, that's a body shot. We're selling that as snipers, as Navy SEALs. We did sell that. You can shoot from a long, long way. And again, it comes with the wind calculations and all that stuff. But a lot of, I mean, everything from luck to wind to divine intervention. Something happened there, and it's a shame that the knee-jerk reaction of the president did get shot in the head. Oh, now we're going to beef it up. It should have been beefed up. For the last 10 years, the left has been talking about violence, showing a fake decapitated head of the president, calling for violence. Kyle Gass from Tenacious D, on his birthday in Australia in a concert, Jack Black, who's by no means a Republican, gave him a birthday cake and said, make a wish. He said, I wish he wouldn't have missed Trump or something. Next time, don't miss something like that. Even to the point where even Jack Black said, look, we're going to cancel this tour. You can't say shit like that, but you can't have that rhetoric. And even they're saying this kid's a registered Republican, even if he is, which I'm not buying anyway. I mean, you can mark it down just for some sort of cover. But even if a registered Republican is trying to kill someone else, we've gone third world at this point. I mean, I do enjoy politics. I hate politicians, but I like to talk. I like to hear other people's points, and I like the whole bit of everything and hearing other points. And I'm a guy that if I'm wrong, I admit that I was wrong, and I appreciate everyone's thing. But we're at a point now where you don't kill your opponent. You certainly don't make up 34 felonies and convict them with a bullshit jury and an even worse judge. This is a very dangerous path we're on. It's not a point. I mean, Donald Trump's there running as a Republican, the head of the Republican Party, simply because you need to be a Republican or a Democrat. But this is a new generation. Donald Trump and JD Vance, he not just, I mean, he's got this locked down. I mean, they really have to cheat a lot worse than they did in 2020 to win this one. But then, I mean, this is a new version because JD Vance, junior senator, young guy, veteran. I mean, and it's not like fascism. I love how they say you're a nationalist. No, I'm just proud of my country, and I see what's happening with everything from inflation to open borders, and that's on the Democrats.
Yeah, and they ratchet up the rhetoric to such a high level, man, that it's only bound to happen. When you keep telling somebody that somebody's Hitler over and over again, sooner or later this is going to happen. But to your point there, that the kid registered as a Republican, that could also be because Pennsylvania is one of 10 states where to vote in the primaries, you have to be registered to vote.
Right.
So he may have done that to vote against Trump because his money donated and money talks. He donated to Joe Biden's campaign through the Act Blue. So there's a little bit more to that too. But I wanted to ask you, like, if you were to take somebody like me, who I shoot sevens on the dice table. I'm not a shooter. If you were to take somebody like me, how long would it take you to train somebody like me to be able to make a shot like that from that distance? How long would that take?
From 100 yards?
Yeah.
Well, including the drive to the range, probably 7 minutes. It's not that
hard. But I'm saying, how long would I have to train in order to be able to make a shot like that?
No, that's what I'm saying. I would say I could train you in 7 minutes to make that shot. Less. Easy. I could teach you how to make that shot without even shooting the weapon, just front sight focus. I'm assuming he had iron sights. Even easier with like a holographic sight or an advanced crosshairs, anything. But I mean, even open sights, point. It's a front sight focus, point of aim, point of impact. You can't miss that shot. That's an easy shot. A lot happened around. I think a lot happened for a lot of things for this to go down. But that shot is we're lucky he was who he was.
It's just the image of him getting up and telling him to wait and raising his hand in the air and the crowd chanting USA, man, is something unlike anything I've ever seen before in my life. And it's just one of those iconic images of how resilient this guy is. It's what an incredible moment in time to watch that. It's one of those, I haven't been so consumed by something like this since 9/11.
I couldn't believe it when it happened. And I think, Donald Trump handled it like a complete stud. Even saying to the Secret Service a job, and you'll hear, Monday morning quarterbacks say, well, you got to get him off the X, which is true. You want to get him off the X. But when he says, hey, give me a second, he knows at that point, to avoid chaos in the crowd, they need to know I'm okay. The nation now and the world needs to know I'm okay. And just the way he came up with fight. The dude just got shot in the head. I've never been shot in the head, but I'm assuming you get disheveled a little bit. The wherewithal, moment in time. This is one of those things. We watched it happen live, so you don't quite, I think, appreciate the depth. But as time goes on, this is historic to a whole new level. And I hope both sides learn from this. And again, I keep bashing Democrats. I want to put this out there. I'm a registered independent, so I'm not a party guy at all. But I do have a brain in my head, and I see what's out there.
Yeah, and one of the last points I want to get from you, too, I just had Sean Parnell and I had Mayor Jondavid Longo, who were both 20 feet from the president when it happened. Wow. And I was asking them because one of the things that we saw was the crowd seemed so calm. And I think, in my opinion, it's because maybe they had confidence that the Secret Service was going to have this under control. Maybe it's because there were combat veterans and other law enforcement guys that in that crowd, and calm is contagious. But it just seemed like that crowd was very, very calm for a shooting that just went down. Usually when you see this, people are scattering like crazy.
Yeah. Calm is contagious too. I heard a really good looking guy say that once. I like that. But that's true though, because from that angle too, it sounds different. I have been shot at. Thank God I've never been hit. But from that angle, it's more of a zip and a zing, and you can hear the impacts potentially, wherever they impacted. But a lot of people might not have known what was happening, but the people that did, and there are combat vets back there, and there are cops and Secret Service, just the way that they didn't panic. You had the occasional screaming. And I was even talking to my wife, Jessica, and I said, why are those women just screaming? And she goes, well, because they haven't been to war, stupid. I'm like, oh, good point. But even with that, they were able, that's just good leadership. Calm is contagious. And whoever did that behind there, because again, you don't know how many shooters there are. And we lost a great American. He got hit in the head jumping on his family. I did shed tears over that, just being a girl dad, knowing what this guy did. And the crowd was impeccable. the Secret Service, again, the before getting there sucked. A lot of things sucked, but I have kudos for jumping on the president. And I also I know that the DEI stuff's being thrown around, and they're yelling about that woman that couldn't get.
That was tough.
It was tough, but here's my thoughts on that. As I'm a master training specialist too. If I'm training you, I don't give a shit how long it takes you to put your gun in the holster. I'm going to make sure you're fast at getting it out. So she couldn't get in the holster. Big deal. And we can get in DEI at another time. There are probably some people there that should have been, and we should be hiring on merit, period. But that's my 2 cents. I try to look out for the people on the X that are actually in the arena.
I know it's difficult for me too. Like I said, I'm not a guy that serves. So to sit here and criticize somebody that does, it just looked like kind of like a Keystone Cops moment where you have to take your eyes. You had to take your eyes off the target to put it down. I think you want your eyes still scanning. Yes. Like, I don't know too much, but I know at least you want to keep your eye on a prize here.
It did appear that they were looking for cover and looking around and a little bit confused. And I wasn't there with them. I don't know their capabilities. Me personally, if I was in charge of the detail, I should have been fired, and I would have fired pretty much everybody there as well, except for like the guys right on top of them.
Well, last thing is I got to get you out of here. I think in my opinion, it comes down to one of two things. Either this was complete negligence or this was a setup. If you had to put your finger on the pulse, which way of the scale you think you would tip this?
I don't want to start a ruckus. I do believe in good people, but that level of incompetence, I almost hope there was sort of an inside job, because you can't have dropped the ball that bad. And this government, man, we've been finding out stuff like this. They still haven't released the JFK files, and everyone involved, including JFK, is dead. So I don't know what, especially with the internet, is the earth flat? Did we go to the moon? Is it a space station? But right now, with the way the government works, the way they've weaponized everything, the way they go after conservatives, the way they jail people for being in an airport on an insurrection that was more of just you guys are idiots, as opposed to the worst terror threat since the Civil War, whatever they said. It wouldn't surprise me at all if someone somewhere was involved.
Yeah, scary stuff. All right, I
Yeah,
got to
very
let you
scary.
go. I'd love to get you back on here anytime.
Yeah,
Rob
anytime,
O'Neill,
Alec.
hope the little girl's doing well, and I'll get you back on soon. Thanks for giving me your
All
time
right, brother.
today.
Great seeing you. Thanks.
All right, honored to have Rob O'Neill, McHoorah, on the podcast. What'd you guys think about the interview? Hit me with a comment down below. Very blessed to have these guys joining me here today. Again, I was trying to put together the best program possible, and we are not done yet because I have got Congressman Tim Burchett joining me now on the podcast, too. One thing I didn't even touch on here was that case of the documents case getting thrown out by federal judge Eileen Cannon. This never should have been a case to begin with. It was unconstitutional. She ruled that way. This Jack Smith, he never should have been appointed to special counsel. It was not done by a president nomination and confirmed through Congress. So we knew right away this was bullshit. Then what they did was they used this Attorney General Merrick Garland, who is a subpoena-avoiding criminal himself, to appoint Jack Smith to special counsel. I've been ringing the bell on this. If you've been listening to the podcast for a very long time, I was talking about, here I am on Fox back in December talking about this very issue. Take a listen. This is a win for Donald Trump, but look at what we're celebrating. We're celebrating the fact that they didn't get to skip the actual appellate court and go straight to the final verdict here, and that's what they were celebrating. We need bigger wins. Like, is Jack Smith, is his appointment even constitutional, right? Is this guy just civilian Jack Smith? That would be a big win if we could prove that that's the case. Unconstitutional all the way. I know he's going to appeal it. He will lose that appeal. Trump can't stop winning right now this week. So we're going to talk about that. Congressman Tim Burchett, I've had him on the podcast prior. I'm honored to get him back. I know he's heading out to the convention today, so I'm grateful to get him now before he gets out there. Let's do. He is the 2nd District. He represents the 2nd District in Tennessee. I got a short window. Let's see how much I can get in.
You're listening to the Alec Lake Show. The future is family.
All right, joining me now, Congressman Tim Burchett. Welcome to the Alec Lake Show.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, well, it's an honor to have you back on the podcast here. I wanted to start out with what would have been probably the top story yesterday had none of the craziness happened over the weekend, which is that this case was dismissed. The documents case was dismissed, which was something that, I know I've been saying, many people have been saying this thing has been unconstitutional for the longest time. And finally, we see it get thrown out. We know there'll be an appeal. What was your take on the documents case getting tossed?
100% unconstitutional, complete overreach. It was formed illegally. Another weaponization against our president. It's really a disgrace at just the number of frivolous lawsuits and attacks on our president. To me, it's beyond belief.
And it almost seems like, too, Congressman, that all this stuff leads to what we saw happen on Saturday, because you arrest the guy, you put his mugshot out there, you tell him he's public enemy number one, he's a criminal, this guy's a Nazi, a threat to democracy, and it leads up to what we saw on Saturday. They have ratcheted up, they talk about lowering the temperature. They're the ones that have been baking it in the oven for years now against President Trump. And we finally seen it come to a point on Saturday. And unfortunately, I don't think that's the last time we're going to see it. Because when you tell people that Trump is Hitler, you feel justified in taking him out.
Absolutely. CNN multiple times has made comparisons to Trump, to Hitler. Magazine showing was a well-known picture of Hitler that was done, I think, in the 30s or 40s, I don't know. And then they superimposed Trump's face over that. You've got Benny Thompson, a member of Congress, and 8 or 9 other Democrats putting a bill on the floor to take Trump's Secret Service protection away. And then you have the President of the United States saying that we need to put Trump in our crosshairs. Look, this stuff is they are the ones. You're exactly right. We don't own a TV station, but they've got half a dozen of them, and they are just these attacks of just the almost assassination of President Trump lies at the feet of these people.
Yeah, definitely blood on their hands, no doubt. And I know that your colleague there, Congressman Comer, was saying that the oversight wanted to do this, get involved here. We obviously saw a colossal failure of the Secret Service, of something went radically wrong here, because for some pimply-faced 20-year-old kid to get 150 yards from the president in broad daylight with a clear line of sight, and get a few shots off and hit him, this was almost impossible for this to happen. So how did you see it? When you heard about this, what was your thought? Like, how in the world could this have happened? Take me through the, how you felt when this thing started to unravel.
I was at a lifetime friend's daughter's wedding, actually. And then I'd turned my ringer off, and I looked down at my phone, and there was 14 messages. I went through all them, and then I had like 21 more. And I made some calls, of course, just to see what was going on. And then, as the news unfolded. But, I've talked to Marine snipers since this happened, a SEAL, Navy SEAL, a CIA operative, an operator, if you will. And all these people said the same thing. He said this is, they'd been on these details, some of them had, and in international settings, and how this just doesn't just happen. A kid parks his van behind this building, walks across this field with a ladder and an AR, allegedly. And the thing is, you look at all the history of assassinations in this country. What is it? It's always a loner. It's always the same MO. They're and Saran, Lee Harvey Oswald, the fellow that allegedly shot Martin Luther King. I'm drawing a blank. James Earl Ray. All these people, and then it comes out years later. This is not what happened. That's why we need, I said, to hell with the convention. We need to be in D.C. bringing these people before our committee. And I was overruled, of course. And I understand. There's a 72-hour rule before you can call a committee, but suspend the rules. Pelosi suspended every rule. We'd have bills, large billion-dollar spending packages that we never even saw. They would go through committee, they'd be marked up, all these amendments, and then she would take it and rewrite it in her office and then come back out with it the next day, and we'd vote on it. And that's the way it was run. And the media allowed that to happen. And the media not only allowed this assassination attempt on President Trump, they encouraged it. They're
definitely complicit. They're complicit, no doubt. And when you have something, this hasn't happened in 43 years. We have not seen an attempt on a president or former president. This was a failure, number one, by the Secret Service. Why this Secret Service director does not, number one, should be fired. Why she doesn't step down. This is insane that this has happened. Yeah. And so there has to be some type of answer to it.
Look at the iconic picture of President Trump doing this. He's over the head of a Secret Service agent. If you saw last night, they didn't have any of those little DEI hires last night at the convention. It was all burly dudes. And this has got to change. This has got to change.
And not only that, Donald Trump, makes a comment about RFK Jr., whose father and uncle were both assassinated, and they don't even give the guy any Secret Service detail. Now Trump brings this to attention, and all of a sudden yesterday, Mayorkas, oh, you know what? We're going to give him a little Secret Service detail. Oh, well, thanks. It only took Trump getting shot in the head for you to give RFK Jr. some Secret Service. What the hell is going on?
Yeah, I called for that months ago. You saw Hunter Biden has Secret Service protection, and he should. But a member of the Kennedy family running for president with the history of that, just knowing how these nuts operate, it's an attention thing. This would be the attention of the decade right there. You take him out. Excuse me. They have overstepped their bounds. She needs to be fired. She's a DEI hire. She needs to be fired. And that's, she needs to go back and work at Pepsi. That's where they got her. She worked it. She was in the Secret Service, and she was on Dick Cheney's detail. She left there for who knows what reason, went to work at Pepsi, and then Biden brings her back as part of his initiative to hire more women.
Yeah, I played the clip. It's like her goal is to have 30% women applicants by 2030. Like, or 20, it's 30% minority, or whatever it is. It's like, how could that be a goal? The goal should be, I want to have 100% the very best. That's it. Anything else than that, there is no excuse for it. You can't say I want to have 30% of this particular type of character. The only thing you want is 100% the best. And if we're not doing that, we're not playing to win. We're just playing to be fair and playing to be nice. And nice isn't going to keep your president alive.
No, it completely. I always say, put the best player in, coach, and we are not putting the best players in. It just was pathetic. And I don't care if they're pink unicorns, but they need to have bodies between the president and suspected shooters, and they did not have that. No. They did not have that on Saturday, and it almost cost President Trump his life.
Yep. And then what an image we saw last night as Trump, comes back to the public eye. He comes into the RNC and the place erupted. It was such an amazing moment. He's got that bandage on his ear. And of course, he picks his running mate now, which is J.D. Vance. So we got a Trump-Vance ticket. Give me how you saw it last night, the first night of the convention, Trump triumphantly returning and his pick with J.D. Vance.
Well, I thought that was a wise decision. He's a Marine. He has come up from nothing, really horrible home life situation, raised by his grandparents. It's not unlike hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans today. I had the good opportunity the fortune of being raised by two wonderful people. I had mom and dad both in the home and that type of situation. But he rose up through the ranks. Enlists after 9/11, patriotic. I think he understands war. He understands that we don't need to be in a lot of needless wars too, and I like that a lot. And he's young. I think he can carry the torch after this is over with. So I think it was a very wise, tactical decision, and he's going to be loyal to the president. Early on, he was against the president, and they're going to make a big deal out of that. But remember, Kamala Harris, all the things she said about Biden, being a racist and a sex offender and all this other stuff, and she's his choice. So I don't think the Democrats have a leg to stand on, and I'm really looking forward to his debate with Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I am as well. And the difference is, too, that Kamala Harris, she came out and said all the shade at Joe Biden, but she also has the media behind her. So, of course, they don't bring that up whatsoever. I would imagine even when J.D. Vance becomes the vice president, almost in every interview while he's vice president, they're going to hammer him with this. Oh, well, you once said this. You know that they're not going to do him any favors there. There's no doubt about that. They're going to continue to pursue, even though they say, hey, let's tone down the temperature. We already hear from his J.D. Vance pick. The mainstream media has already come out. Biden already coming out on Twitter saying that this guy is a threat. He's worse than Trump. It's like, it's crazy how even after what we just saw, they're continuing that tempo, that language, and it's dangerous. And we've seen how dangerous it is now. So you would hope they would turn that stuff around.
Yeah, but they won't. They always want to talk compromise when they're in the minority or they know they're grasping at straws, and the media is too. The media is behind this guy and the whole time, and they've just, the attacks on Trump have been relentless. And this is what we got in our national media. I will tell you this: one time right before my dad died, I was mayor of Knox County, and I'd gone through a pretty big fight on an issue, and he'd had a stroke and he was laying there. I mean, wasn't long before he was gonna meet the Lord. And I remember, and he'd had this massive stroke, and he grunted out to me as I walked in. He said, they after you again? And I said, yeah, Daddy, they are. And there'd been newspaper articles in the Chamber of Commerce, and all the beautiful people, the ruling class in my county were after me. And he said, do you really want that bunch for you? And I tell you this, we do not want the national media for us, because the minute they are, you better watch out what you're doing, because they are, they'll be for us if we're going to turn this country into a Marxist state, running it into the ground. But they're not going to be for us when we want freedom, because they don't have the control then.
Yeah, very well said, Congressman. Almost kind of make you feel more secure about the J.D. Vance pick, that they did come after him, and that some people, the rhinos that we got in our party, were condemning the pick. So it kind of made you feel a little bit more secure about the pick. You would hope those people aren't championing the pick, because then you're saying, "Oh, wait a minute, we got a problem here." So, and last thing I know, because my time is tight with you, this all took the attention. The news cycle changed on a dime. Obviously, here, all the momentum was about the Democrat Party imploding. Are they going to replace Joe Biden? This guy, number one, he should not currently be in the White House as the president. He is not cognitively there. He is not, he shouldn't be in charge of a hot dog stand. This guy's running the country. So they're talking about him not being well enough to run. He's not well enough to be sitting in the Oval Office today. So that whole news cycle has shifted here, but his cognitive decline hasn't gone away. So what is your take on Biden? Are they going to run him? Is there any more actions being taken to go against Joe Biden? What's the latest on that?
Well, my sources tell me that Pelosi has been working the phone pretty heavy to get Joe Biden out. But I don't see that being a lane for that unless they do some coup at the convention. They're very capable of that because, Bernie Sanders, if I remember correctly, I believe he was the popular vote getter against Hillary Clinton. But when they got to the convention, they call them the super delegates. These people that were, it's a crooked kind of thing. Everybody wants to sue somebody if the courts have ruled that, party business is party business. And it's just a fiefdom kind of thing. And it's a corrupt system. So I'll be interested to watch their convention more than ours, actually, because I think you're going to see they're going to have a hard time rallying around this. And I think it's telling, too, that knowing that he's on the edge, that not one single congressman has announced that they're going to be running for president, because they voted lockstep 100% with his terrible agenda. Why the border's in such sad shape? Why our economy's in the tank? Why it costs Americans $600 more a month to live just to pay for groceries? And they'll say, well, the job totals are up under Biden. The job totals are up because people are working 2 and 3 jobs just to survive. That's why they're up. Statistics don't lie, just statisticians. Let's get our facts straight. Let's take it to them, and let's not back off. That's what I worry too. When Bill Clinton was elected president, we got really cocky before he was elected because he was a draft dodger, and everybody thought he was that's just going to kill him out in this campaign. And we got cocky and complacent. Let's not measure the drapes at the White House yet.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And then last thing I want to get your take on here, too, is Trump is going to make this speech at the RNC. It's going to be another powerful moment when he does this. He said he rewrote the speech based on the failed assassination attempt. What are you expecting to hear from the president? You think we're going to hear a lot about the unity, how we need to pull together? What are you kind of expecting to hear from the president at the RNC?
I do. It's a different Donald Trump, but I still think he's going to have that fire in his belly, because he knows who he's running against. And this is an evil White House that has surrounded himself with evil people. And I feel like he needs to clean house. And like I always say, Jesus didn't ask him to leave the temple, he threw him out. And if he gets in there, he better go through this. He better go through Washington like Grant through Richmond. It's not just the leaders, it's into the trenches. That's where it's not a swamp, man. It's a sewer. It is a complete sewer.
Yeah. Amen. Let's get it. All right, Congressman Tim Burchett, I'd love to have you back on down the line anytime. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today on the Alec Lace Show.
Hey, thank you, brother, and it's a pleasure. Get me back on there and get my picture up on your wall.
I got one of you. I got to rotate it in there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Congressman. All right, honored to have Congressman Tim Burchett on the podcast. What do you guys think about that? Hit me down in the comments below. Congressman Burchett, one of the good ones. We need more of him as we expand our lead in the House. He is an America First patriot. Right now it just feels like the energy has shifted in this country. I don't know about you, but from Saturday, from that moment, the energy has shifted. It almost feels like kind of like a September 12th type of feeling in this country, like we had September 12th, 2001, the day after 9/11, where it was just nothing but patriotism and love of country. Of course, we don't get that from the left. There's too many people on the left that are mad that the criminal missed, that the assassin missed. or that the punk kid missed. It was trending on Twitter. When you have things trending on Twitter like, how did you miss? You had one job. That doesn't mean one or two people tweeted. That means there's hundreds of thousands of tweets for something to trend on Twitter. So you have a lot of evil people here in this world. And here's one example. Here's Jack Black, the comedian, whatever you want to call him. He's got a band. His band was playing, and it was his bandmate's birthday. He asked him if he wanted to make a wish on stage in front of thousands of people. Here's what he had to say.
Make a wish, Canada. Don't miss Trump next time. Thank you.
Don't miss Trump next time. And listen to the crowd. Did you hear that crowd applauding and laughing and cheering for this? This is what we're facing right now. Joe Biden's talking, he was supposed to be the uniter in chief. This guy divides the country with his rhetoric, and now he's telling you to take the temperature down. Is that the temperature coming down, Jack? It's a toxic atmosphere, but I'm telling you right now, the energy has shifted. The energy has shifted to us right now, and it seems like we have a great chance to get Trump back in the White House, but will they allow it? What will come next? They've tried everything else. What comes next? I think that you have people that would rather blow up the entire planet than allow Trump back into the White House. And these are the people that have their hands on the nuclear codes. I could definitely see nuclear war with Russia before they allow him back in. So we got a long way to go. And let's talk about all of it. Trump's VP pick, the assassination attempt. Let's talk about it with Clay Clark to close this out here. He is the founder of the Reawaken Tour, the host of the Thrive Time Show. I've had him on the podcast a few times previously. I'm honored to get him back. Let's get him on.
You're listening to the Alec Lake Show. The future is family.
All right, joining me now, Clay Clark. Welcome back to the Alec Lake Show.
Brother, thank you so much for your energy, your passion, your consistency, your research, everything you do behind the scenes to make this great program. And I'm honored to be joined with you.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you back. A lot to get to. There's just so many things popping right now politically. Obviously, we had the assassination attempt on President Trump, who just picked his vice president, and that's the thing that's going, trending right now. J.D. Vance is the selection after many different candidates and suggestions. What's your take on a Trump-Vance ticket here?
Well, first off, I think when we vote for somebody, in this case, President Donald J. Trump, one of the things you're voting for is you're voting for their ability to make decisions. Right. I mean, that's what you're voting for. So President Trump is going to decide what he eats today, where he goes, who he talks to, what calls he makes. He's going to decide the way he wants to build the wall, how fast he wants to build the wall. He's going to negotiate with China and Russia, and he's going to end that war in Ukraine quickly. He's going to stop inflation. He's going to drill, baby, drill. These are all things that he's going to do. And one of the first decisions you have to make as a presidential candidate is you pick the vice presidential candidate. So I have great confidence in President Donald J. Trump's decision-making power. And so that's going to be my official take on it, is I have great confidence in his decision-making power. Now, that being said, I want to read you the statement from President Donald J. Trump on his Truth Social. It reads here, after lengthy deliberation and thought, and considering the tremendous talents of many others, I have decided that the person best suited to assume the position of Vice President of the United States is Senator J.D. Vance of the great state of Ohio. J.D. honorably served our country in the Marine Corps, graduated from Ohio State University in 2 years, summa cum laude, and is a Yale Law School graduate, where he was editor of the Yale Law School Journal and president of the Yale Law Veterans Association. J.D.'s book, Hillbilly Elegy, became a bestseller and movie as it championed the hardworking men and women of our country. JD has had a very successful business career in technology and finance, and now during the campaign will be strongly focused on the people he fought so brilliantly for, the American workers and the farmers in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Minnesota, and far beyond. So I think that the President Trump eloquently and succinctly articulated why he voted for J.D. Vance. And I think that I'm just going to have to say that I enthusiastically support President Donald J. Trump. I enthusiastically support his decision-making power. And I hope that over time will tell, if that was the right pick. But again, I really hope we don't get pinched.
Yeah, that's what I just took the words out of my mouth. I think this is what we all kind of have a hangover from, is that Michael Pence, a vice president that turned out to be everything that we thought he wasn't. And then also, too, there were a lot of other people that Trump surrounded himself with in that cabinet during his first term that were very shady, that came out afterwards throwing shade at him. He had a press secretary there that admitted she didn't even vote for him. So there was a lot of problems with the people that he had surrounding him. And he got rid of some very important people that should have stayed there, especially General Michael Flynn, Steve Bannon. So you would have loved to have seen those people. Hopefully we see them again in the second administration here, but that's one of the clouds that is hanging over that first run that he had, was some of the people that he surrounded himself by ended up being the enemy inside the wire.
You know, what I do know is yesterday when this past weekend, I should say, when these unfortunate events took place with the attempted assassination of President Donald J. Trump, I happened to be on the phone with Eric often during that time, and wow. I mean, there's no reason statistically, let's just talk about that, for President Trump to be alive. I mean, you talk about a shooter shooting from 150 yards. I think that's the official estimated distance there. I'm not a shooter, but a lot of people that I know who are shooters, who hunt these sorts of things, they've told me that really somebody who's gone to military training for 2 weeks, should be able to hit that kind of a target. So the idea that President Donald J. Trump was not fatally wounded is a miracle. And I have to believe that Donald J. Trump is both anointed and appointed for this time. And I believe one thing about experience is you learn it. So let's talk about the gym. Some of your listeners out there love to hit the gym, right? So you go to the gym and you're not getting the results you want. So you talk to your trainer and your trainer says, you got to cut the carbs, and you go, I know, and then you talk to the trainer, you're getting more results. The trainer says, man, you're looking good. Are you cutting the carbs? And you say, I'm cutting the carbs. And the trainer says, you say, trainer, I want to build up my back or build up my biceps or do whatever with and the trainer says, you do this, you do that. And by going to a trainer, you avoid a lot of the trial and error. But as a president, you can't really go to a trainer. You actually learn from experience, don't you? I mean, you learn from experience. So the fact that he's a multi-billionaire who's built a very successful real estate empire, and a guy who discovered the landmines, or the figurative landmines of being the president of the United States, discovering how the deep state works and understanding how truly deep it is. I think President Donald J. Trump understands the swamp now. He understands where the swamp things are located. And I think this time around, he's going to bring a different level of experience to that discussion and to those decisions. But I would love to see, and this is just, I don't know that my opinion matters, but I'll tell you what I believe to be true. I believe that President Donald J. Trump should bring in Peter Navarro again to be his chief economic advisor. I do believe he should bring in General Michael Flynn to be his chief geopolitical advisor, national security advisor. I do believe that he should show resiliency with that decision and bring him back. I do strongly believe that Dr. Ben Carson should be brought back to his role. I do strongly believe that Dan Bongino should be serving as potentially an FBI director. I do believe that Kash Patel should head up the DOJ. I do believe that Laura Trump should serve as a press secretary, or somebody like her, that they cannot be. I mean, Laura Trump as a press secretary. Think about that. That's an incredible thought, isn't it? I do believe that Donald J. Trump needs to really utilize all the king's men, bring in people that can be trusted, and get this thing done, because we've got to turn around this country. And I know he was duped once. I do not believe he'll be duped again. I'm not a shameless President Donald J. Trump apologist. I am a person, though, of faith. I am a person who believes in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And I do believe that there is no statistical, non-miraculous reason to explain President Donald J. Trump being alive today, let alone being alive and able to make that decision. So again, my thoughts and prayers are with the Trump family. My support is behind that decision. And I really hope that it proves out to be the best decision possible. But he's got to bring back General Flynn. He's got to bring back Peter Navarro. He's got to make those critical decisions and fill up that cabinet.
And I think he will. I mean, I think what a lot of what you said is very true. I think that he learned the game going through it the first time. He came from the business world into this political world, and now he's got some experience under his belt, and he's going to use that experience to help him moving forward this time. And all those guys that you just mentioned, and girls, Laura Trump there, I think they would be brilliant inside the cabinet. I think I'm not sure. I mean, I know they also have guys like JD Vance is the vice president. Vivek Ramaswamy, I think we'll see him take some kind of position inside that cabinet as well. So I think there is a much deeper bench on the Republican side than there is on the Democrat side. The Democrat Party has seemed to have completely fallen off. And now after this assassination attempt, you're having the president of the United States come out and say, we need to lower the temperature, where just 2 weeks ago, he was telling them it's time to put the bullseye on President Donald Trump. And then just 2 weeks later, somebody hits him, with the bullseye. So all the rhetoric, all the hate, all this stuff has been coming from the left. And now you kind of worry, Clay, here as we go few months now to November. They've tried locking him up. They've tried convicting him. They've tried impeaching him. They've tried killing him. What's next? Or what is next in the pipeline here before we get Donald Trump back into the White House?
I was going to tell you what's next is a Trump victory. That's what's next. I'm telling you that, folks. What's next is a Trump victory. Now, what's going to happen between now and then? I'll tell people, I'll give you facts that I know, and I'm no speculation, no guessing, no prophetic hunches. This is just facts, okay? Bird flu. Look it up, folks. Bird flu. You got Iowa has already declared a bird flu emergency. Colorado has already declared a bird flu emergency. Michigan has already, think about this for a second. Michigan has shut down the largest egg manufacturing farm. What? Colorado's euthanizing it's over 1.7 million chickens, I believe. Same thing in the great state of, so you have Iowa and Colorado euthanizing chickens at scale. What's that going to do? Well, that's going to cause food prices to spike. What? Yeah. So what you're going to see is an attack on our health, bird flu, an attack on our wealth, de-dollarization, hyperinflation, BRICS, de-dollarization, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa teaming up together to introduce a new gold-backed programmable central bank digital currency. BRICS dramatically expanding here. Coming this fall, Putin plans to dramatically expand the BRICS bloc. This is BRICS that's been hoarding the Earth's gold for the past 17 years in preparation for introducing a gold-backed programmable central bank digital currency. And finally, an attack on just normalcy itself. An attack on normalcy itself. What am I saying? I mean, don't you think this assassination attempt was a jarring event for everybody? Yes, it was. Don't you think that you're starting to see more and more odd things? A barge in Baltimore goes down. Okay, that's what I guess that's, you're starting to see just a lot of abnormal things happen normally, if that makes any sense. You're seeing events that are abnormal becoming normal. And so, again, it's an attack on our health, an attack on our wealth, an attack on just our daily living itself. And I think that's going to an attempt to launch this thing called the Great Reset, which Klaus Schwab and Yuval Noah Harari can't stop talking about. It's called the Great Reset. It's their plan to usher in a new financial reset, a 15-minute cities. You might have heard that term, central bank digital currencies. And that's what they're wanting to do. So how they get there is they have to create chaos. And then out of the chaos, they introduce their new system. They call it Build Back Better.
Yeah, and then build back bullshit is what it's been. And we just seen, too, the Biden administration spend that $130 million, I believe it was, on that barge out there, for, I don't know even what it was for. It was supposed to be for supplies to bring into Gaza, whatever it was. This thing washed away in like 10 days. They got no usage out of it. Less than a month this thing lasted. They just keep pissing away the taxpayer dollars, and they're going to continue to do so until we get them out of there, which I think is why it's so vitally important that right now we get behind Trump. But here's the other thing, too. We've seen that narrative shift now from where you had Democrats infighting saying Biden should step down. We don't seem to hear that anymore now. Does it seem like Biden is the candidate? Are they set on that? Or you think they're still going to try to get him out of the way so they can run somebody else behind him, maybe a Gavin Newsom or somebody else?
It's a great question, and I just don't know the answer to it. I know that it seems very obvious to guys like you who follow the news on a daily basis. For those that don't follow it quite as much, I think maybe it's less obvious, but there seems to be a mainstream narrative shift where now all of a sudden they are accepting the mental decline of Joe Biden to be true. Whereas for the last 3 or 4 years, they've turned a blind eye to it. So I don't know what that is. I don't know how that works exactly. I just know that's what's happening. And I know that it seems as though Gavin Newsom is salivating when discussing the opportunity to help the Biden administration. It seems like he's salivating for this position. It seems as though the Democrats are kind of soft selling Michelle Obama. You're seeing her face appear on mailers that are going out to Democrat voters. Hillary Clinton's face is showing up on mailers. So I think you're seeing Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, and Gavin Newsom being introduced as the new face of the Democrat Party. And I think you're seeing there's a narrative that's becoming more and more obvious that the mainstream media has decided to go ahead and admit what you've been saying on your show for the past 3-4 years, that there's an obvious mental decline of Joe Biden.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And where do you think, now obviously you heard the president say that we got to tone down the rhetoric. We all recognize that the political atmosphere in this country is toxic. It seems like our society is being held together by a piece of dental floss. I mean, it could go any minute. That's what it seems. That's the feeling. But do you think now we do see that rhetoric toned down from the mainstream media, the left-wing lunatics? Do you think we do see a change in temperature in the political talk and the political atmosphere from now until Election Day? Or does it kind of just fade and dip a little bit and then go right back up?
I don't see any reason that the globalists would stop their Great Reset plan. I mean, I want them to stop it, but I don't see any reason why they would stop it. I don't think, Alec, they're going to carry out this plan this far for this long. I mean, in 1971, the World Economic Forum was founded by Klaus Schwab. 1971. I mean, not 1981, 1991. I mean, this is 1971. They've been working on this thing for 23 years. I mean, that's why they're 53 years. I mean, this is wild stuff here. They've been working on this plan for 53 years, getting ready to introduce this Great Reset. I mean, you look at BRICS and the intentional, diligent purchasing of precious metals. You look at the central banks acquiring precious metals. You look at the diligent, and again, devilishly diligent, but the consistent application of effort to demonize the hardworking male and to introduce this idea of the woke family. You're seeing this attack on the traditional family. You're seeing the intentionality of creating porous borders that allow us to be unable to differentiate between who is supposed to be here and who isn't. You're beginning. So I just cannot see the Great Reset being halted unless it's halted by President Donald J. Trump. I cannot see those on the left stopping their Great Reset to be nice or to be measured or to somehow dial down the rhetoric. I believe that the Great Reset will only increase, and if it's not stopped by President Donald J. Trump.
Man, I pray to God that God keeps his hand on Donald Trump the way he had it on him over this weekend, because we definitely need him in the fight. And speaking of that, listen, I know you put on one of the greatest shows, venues that there is with the Reawaken Tour. What do you got going on right now? What's coming up next for you here in the pipeline?
Sure. Well, the final event, and you're certainly invited to it, it's October 18th and 19th. That's the final one, the final event we're doing, and I'll tell you why. It's called the Reawaken America Tour. So what we're doing is we're reawakening people. I'm hoping that we can educate voters about things like the corruption of the pharmaceutical industrial complex. And I mean, you just don't hear about it on the mainstream media. We can educate people about the dangers of central bank digital currencies. We can discuss the people BRICS and de-dollarization. We can walk people through the dangers of RNA modifying nanotechnology. We can talk. These are topics that just don't get discussed. And again, I'm not prophetic. I'm just saying, if you look at the lineup this weekend, I don't know, Alec. I mean, what percentage of the speakers are going to get up there and say, hey, folks, I'm not sure if you're aware, but you shouldn't take the RNA modifying nanotechnology shots? I mean, what percentage are going to talk about the future collapse of the dollar? What percentage are going to get up there and say, hey, by the way, Elon Musk happens to have the 30,000 low orbit satellites that blanket the Earth and cover the Earth in 5G. And by the way, Elon Musk is a large defense contractor for America and China. And by the way, Elon Musk is on the exact same page with Klaus Schwab and Yuval Noah Harari with self-driving cars, mRNA modifying nanotechnology, connecting brains to computers, and universal basic income. I would say 0% of the speakers are going to talk about that. And I think what they're going to say this weekend, if I had to summarize what will be said at the convention, I'm going to summarize it. Here we go. I think you're going to see a lot of speakers that get up there and say, how many of you are Americans? Woo! How many of you love America? Woo! How many of you believe in the home of the free? Woo! And the brave? Woo! And red, white, blue? Woo! And that's going to go on for about 5 days in a row. Maybe somebody will lose his mind and talk about the Second Amendment. Maybe somebody will go off script and talk about the First Amendment. Maybe somebody really, really loses their mind and talks about how our country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. But by and large, it's going to be an America Fest. There's going to be a lot of shallow, crowd-pleasing, ear-tickling, energy-causing, enthusiastic, whatever you call it. But no one's really going to be talking about central bank digital currencies, the collapse of the dollar, the RNA-modifying nanotechnology, the dangers of central bank digital currencies, the Great Reset. You all know Harari, Klaus Schwab, brain-computer interfaces. You're just not going to hear about it. So that's why the Reawaken America Tour exists, is to talk about those subjects to the American people and hopefully educate a few more voters headed into the election, because the man who stands on the right side of freedom is Donald J. Trump.
Well, that's why it's important that you put these events on and that you do bring this information to the table. I got the link to the Reawaken Tour down there in the description below. Love to have you on again. Before that, maybe I'll see you out there for the event. Clay Clark, thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time here on the Alec Lay Show.
Thanks a lot, brother. Have a great day.
All right, honored to have Clay Clark back on the podcast. What'd you guys think about the interview? I'll tell you what, I love those names he was throwing out there for a Trump administration, right? I mean, you talk about Kash Patel, General Michael Flynn, Peter Navarro, Dan Bongino, Ben Carson. I mean, that's an all-star team. I hope Trump does it, because the one cloud, and I've talked about this with Eric Trump a few months ago when I had him on the podcast, one of those clouds, like I said to Clay Clark, was that the people that he surrounded himself with, these weren't people that were that loved Trump and then turned on him because they didn't like him. They were like, oh, we love Trump, and then, oh, wow, we don't like him. These were people that never liked Trump, that did what they could to get around him, and then once they got around him, their true colors came out. So a big part of this is going to be Trump getting the right people to represent him in that administration. So I think this time, I think Trump learned a lot from that first one. We certainly did. I mean, there's some people that were some question marks, and we got some answers on some of them. Some we still don't know. There's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing out there, so it's tricky business. But listen, this was the best I could do. I had 5 guests join me on the podcast today. I really hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I put together this program. I wanted to make sure I was trying to get somebody that was there at the event. Ended up getting you 2 guys that were 20 feet from the podium, 20 feet from Trump when the shots rang out. So also to get Rob O'Neill, SEAL Team 6 guy, on here to break down the failures that went down. I mean, so I did the best I could. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please follow the channel here on Rumble and share the broadcast with everybody so we can get some more eyeballs on it. Thursday, I'm trying to do my best to line up some other guests. I got Mike Benz joining me here on Thursday. He's the executive director of the Foundation for Freedom Online. I'm working on other guests. So please, follow me here on Rumble is really all I can ask. I appreciate you guys taking your time to hear me speak today to you guys. And I'll be back on Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live on Rumble. God bless all you parents and you listeners out there. God bless our troops, military, veterans, and active. God bless our first responders and our police. God bless America. And I'll catch you guys back here Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live on Rumble.
You're listening to the Alec Lay Show. The future is